Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Mallory and I'm really glad that you stopped by to view this video. And this video is going to be very different from any other content that I have on my channel. A lot of you know me if you are already subscribed to my channel, which if you're not, make sure you do that below. If you're already subscribed and you know me and you've watched my videos, you know that a lot of my videos revolve around pregnancy, motherhood, our baby Max. I'm a new mom. Max is about 4 months old right now. But what I have not really talked about very much, I've mentioned it in passing, but I've never done a video dedicated to it. And that is about our infertility journey. And if you see the title of this video and you clicked on it, you know that that's what this video is about. For some reason, I've just never shared about it here on YouTube. For some reason, it just, I don't know, made me uncomfortable. I preferred to share about it on Instagram and my blog, but I felt like it was time to finally come on here and talk about it, even though, yes, I do have a baby now, and you could say that we overcame infertility, but that infertility journey never leaves you. And if you've dealt with infertility before, which probably is the reason why you're watching this video, you know just how deeply it affects your life. And even after you get your baby, it still is part of your story and it still will always be part of your life. So that's why I'm putting this out here, because I care so deeply about people who are going through this journey, because I know exactly how difficult it is. Another reason why I wanted to share about our infertility story is to help break the stigma, because it can seem maybe a little awkward for some people to talk about. I mean, it's a very intimate part of our lives, but I think it's really important for those of us who have struggled to speak out about it, because little comments to a married couple like, so when are kids coming along, or things like that, that may seem very innocent and well-meaning on the surface. Those things can actually be very hurtful, because you don't know if that couple is trying to have a child and they can't. So that's another reason that I want to share, is not just for those of you who are or who have gone through infertility to have somebody that you can relate to, but for those who have not, to help them understand just what it's like. So if you're somebody that's dealing with infertility and you have friends and family in your life that don't really get it, please feel free to share this video with them, because I think even if you're not yet ready to share your story, sharing somebody else's story that's similar to your own can help your friends and family understand where you're coming from. So I do have notes here in front of me. I have written blog posts about this. So there are blog posts that go along with each video. This is going to be the first of 3 videos, because it is quite a story of our infertility journey. And I just wanted to give it justice. I've wanted to be a mom since I was at least 8 years old. So this has been a lifelong dream for me. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, and I've always had that mother's heart. Even when my mom was pregnant with my first sibling, my brother Zachary, I was only 3 years old, barely 3 years old, but yet I kind of understood what was going on, and I couldn't wait to have a little brother or a sister. And then by the time my sister came along, who's the last, I have 2 brothers and then a sister, I'm 10 years older than my sister. So by the time she came along, I was really helping my mom. I was like my mom's right-hand girl, and helping change diapers and helping, watch the baby, and I was very, very involved as the oldest sibling. And so I've just always had that desire to be a mother. However, I think because that was such a great desire, one of my greatest fears was that I would struggle to become pregnant and that I would never have my own children. It may come from the fact that I really wanted to be a mom, but I don't really know exactly where that fear came from. My husband thinks that it came from the fact that I had scoliosis when I was a teenager. I was 13. It was very, very severe. It's a whole nother story. I should do a video on that too. But before I had the surgery to correct it, because it was so twisted, my spine and rib cage were so twisted, the doctor told me that if you don't have the surgery, you will never be able to bear children, because there won't be room for your uterus to expand in your rib cage, because your rib cage twists with scoliosis. My husband thinks that maybe it stemmed from that. I don't know. I don't really totally believe that, but you know, it could be a psychological factor. But whatever the case was, I was very, very scared years, you know, over a decade before it was even, you know, before I was even married. Unfortunately, that fear did come to pass. You know, I did end up struggling with infertility. So Mark and I got married in 2014, and soon after I started prerequisites for nursing school. So while I was in nursing school, like going through school, we avoided pregnancy using fertility awareness based methods. So it was a combination of the sympto-thermal method and the Marquette method. And I will have links to resources about these methods, but I think fertility awareness is starting to become a little more accepted out there. But we knew that once I finished nursing school that we would want to start our family, when we'd want to start having children. And I really looked forward to that. Now, during this time also, while I was going through nursing school, so that would have prereqs plus actual nursing school. So that would have been 2014. And then I graduated mid 2014, and then I graduated at the end of 2017. So during this time, I also was dealing with some chronic, mysterious health issues. They were kind of like autoimmune type issues, but nobody could really put their finger on it. Before I got married, I did have a health crisis. That's a whole nother story, but I was very, very sick and I needed a colonoscopy, and I found that I had this certain type of colitis called lymphocytic colitis, and I had a lot of gut and GI issues. So during this like 3-year period, I really went on a health quest to better my health in a more holistic manner. And in 2015, when we lived in North Carolina at Fort Bragg, I found a functional medicine doctor, and he was such a huge help to me. He really helped, you know, dig into my problems, and I was able to start resolving my gut issues. I was also having psoriasis type skin issues and also unexplained joint pain. So almost like an arthritic pain, but I didn't have arthritis, but you know, it was there and I couldn't explain why. So he started me on a regimen of changing my diet and high quality supplements and one prescription medication that actually helps to balance your immune system. And I did all that. I followed the regimen and I started getting better, and I started feeling like I was getting to be my best self. And it was great because I hadn't felt that for years. That really was, I knew that that was part of our fertility journey overall, like even before we dealt with infertility, because I knew that benefiting your overall health benefits your fertility, because oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes your fertility status is an indicator of how healthy you are overall. In early 2017, Mark left for a deployment to Africa. It was supposed to be a year long, and it ended up being a little shorter, but you know, that's just a minor detail there. But anyway, we thought we were going to be apart for a whole year, and actually we did end up being apart for basically the whole year. So he left for Africa. I was starting my senior year of nursing school, so like the most rigorous part. And I decided at the beginning of that year, kind of like as a New Year's resolution type thing, to do a month-long paleo diet reset. And basically the paleo diet is a very holistic way of eating. You're eating real food, you're cutting out sugar and processed carbs and gluten and things like that. I had been kind of eating paleo, but not very strict, but I decided, you know what, for 1 month, I'm gonna do a reset, I'm gonna be more strict, and let's just see what happens. And after that month-long reset, I felt even better. Like I had been feeling pretty good, but I felt even better after that reset. And some food sensitivities that I had been dealing with, like I would eat some foods and they would just kind of bother me and I didn't know why. After that reset, even some of those food sensitivities that the functional medicine doctor, that his protocol hadn't been able to help me with, they went away. And I thought, wow, this is this is great. Like, I'm getting into a really great spot. And one of my goals for that year of being apart from Mark was to really work on my personal health so that when he came back and we started trying to conceive, my body would be in like the best place possible, you know, and then we could be able to get pregnant really easily. So here I am, it's 2017. Let's see, how old was I? I turned 31 in November of 2017. And so, you know, I felt like I was the picture of health, and pretty much anyone looking at me from the outside would say that Malori Mayor was the picture of health. I was eating a real food diet. I was taking high quality supplements as directed by a physician. I was a healthy weight. I had a lot of energy. I almost never got sick. I had very regular cycles because, you know, of course, all this time I'm charting my fertility. And I was only on that one prescription medication, which is, in my opinion, one of the best prescriptions you can be on, because again, it really helps balance your immune system instead of suppressing it. And really the only area that I could have worked on that could have been better at that time was my sleep and my stress level. But judging that I was in a very rigorous nursing program to get my bachelor's, you know, your life can't be perfect. You're going to be losing sleep. You're going to be up late, getting up early, going to clinicals. You're going to be under stress, you know, taking exams and things like that. So, but I knew that after nursing school ended that I would really reprioritize my sleep and my stress levels. So that was kind of like, you know, the next thing. But otherwise, I was so healthy. I was so healthy. And so you would think that I would have been the perfect candidate for pregnancy, right? But this is kind of where our infertility journey starts. When I came to Germany, I graduated in December of 2017 from nursing school. And then literally a few days later is when I got on a plane and moved to Germany because Mark was already there for the past few months. So then after that, then we formally started to try. And that's really when I started going down that black hole of the infertility craziness cycle because I was looking at my fertility charts and I'm like, I should be getting pregnant. Why am I not getting pregnant? And I want to go through the cycle of infertility that if you are going through infertility, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're not, then this can kind of give you some insight into how infertility can really drive you a little batty. So I started living life based on my cycle. So first, your period starts. So most likely, you know, if this is not your first cycle of trying, you've already been trying for a little bit, your period starts, you feel defeated, you feel just very down on yourself, you want to give up, you even have like defiant thoughts like, I don't care if I ever get pregnant, you know, even though that's not true. You just feel so defeated because your period came, you're not pregnant again, and you have to start it all over again. So then you have post-period until you ovulate, and this is kind of like a happy place, right? So your period has ended, you've kind of gotten over those emotions of being disappointed, and you're starting to look toward your ovulatory phase, and you're like, okay, it's a new month, we're gonna try again, like this is gonna be our month. Like you have this renewed hope that things are gonna be different. And then post-ovulation, like ovulation comes and goes, and then you have like a few days to a week after ovulation where those positive feelings continue. And I found for me in that like week-ish that I was able to kind of forget, almost, not totally, it's always in the back of your mind, but I was able to mostly forget about fertility stuff and, you know, was I pregnant during that week-ish time. And I was able to like live my life as normal, like kind of carefree, because it's like it's too soon to start analyzing like, am I having pregnancy symptoms? It's like way too early for that. It's too early to start taking pregnancy tests. So it's like you might as well not worry about it. So that's like, you kind of have like a week and a half maybe, if you're lucky, of feeling like pretty good about your life. But then about 1 week into what they call the 2-week wait, or that about 2 weeks between when you ovulate and hopefully conceived till when you either are pregnant or get your period. So that's that 2-week wait. About a week into that, then that's when the insanity starts again. You start symptom spotting, as they say, and you start over analyzing every single symptom that you have. I think I felt a little bit queasy. My breasts are tender. I'm bloating. Oh, all these different things that start popping up, and you start thinking, oh, this might mean that I'm pregnant. And then you go down the rabbit hole of Googling XYZ symptom plus early pregnancy. And I cannot tell you how many times I've done that Google search. Now, it's been a while because, about a year ago is when I got pregnant. But from 2018 to 2019, every single cycle, almost pretty much, I was going through that rabbit hole of Googling symptoms. And then you might start early testing. So you might start taking early pregnancy tests because, those nice little packages of pregnancy tests, it markets it saying 6 days before your period or before your missed period, you can get a positive test. And so you calculate it, you look at your fertility chart, and you say, oh, okay, yeah, well, I could take a test today and it might be positive. And so you go through all these testing and it's negative, negative, negative. Also, during that second week of the 2-week wait, for me personally, I started having PMS, so premenstrual syndrome. Just an FYI, that is way, way too early to be having PMS. I would regularly get PMS 7 to 9 days before my period started. And that is not normal. And I will address that in part 2 of how I treated that. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So then you get to a few days before your period is due to come, and you're just holding on to the last thread of hope that I took these pregnancy tests, they're negative, but I still could be pregnant theoretically. And you're just holding on to that almost insane hope that you are pregnant, and you're kind of in denial that your PMS symptoms are PMS. You're thinking, you're hoping that they're pregnancy symptoms, but deep inside that they're PMS and that your period is coming. And then finally your period comes and you start that roller coaster of emotions all over again. Obviously, this is not a healthy way to live. But again, if you've gone through infertility, you know that sometimes it's hard to avoid. And it doesn't, you could have a really strong faith. I have a really strong faith. But despite that, we're human and we fall into these traps of just feeling like we control everything, and that if I go through this whole rigmarole, somehow things will be different, and eventually you start feeling like, okay, yeah, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that's really how I started to feel. So back up a little bit to the beginning of 2018, and something that my husband and I have loved doing, I guess most of our marriage, is at the beginning of the year. I mean, you can do this at any time, but the beginning of the year is a really great time to do it, is we like to sit down and make a plan for the year and even for upcoming years, make long-term, medium-term, and short-term goals. And so we make joint goals, and one of our goals for 2018 was to become pregnant. I know that's super nerdy to write it down on one of those huge whiteboards, but we did that because it was a big goal. But we did have some stipulations on there because we wanted to be very detailed and not just say get pregnant, because it isn't always that simple. And we did say, and this was really before this whole crazy cycle started of infertility, we put down that if I wasn't pregnant within 6 months, that we would seek help from either a nutritionist or a holistic healthcare practitioner, just to see if there was lifestyle and diet changes that we could make to enhance our fertility. And we would follow their guidance for 6 months. And then after that 6 months, then if I still wasn't pregnant, then we would seek the help of an OBGYN and get more medical related testing and stuff. But as is often the case when you think that you're dealing with infertility and you know that you might have a long road ahead of you, I started feeling the need to start seeking help before that 6-month mark. And looking at my chart, like knowing what I knew about fertility awareness, I knew that we were doing everything right and I should have been getting pregnant. But also at the same time, looking at my chart, looking at my bleeding patterns, like looking at different little things that were happening that were a little bit off, I just had this gut feeling that something was wrong. Like I needed somebody professional to tell me what was wrong. But I just didn't know, of course, I'm not the professional. I am a registered nurse, but I'm not a fertility professional. I needed somebody to help me. And also, if you're very in tune with your body, you just know when something's off, right? And we were also fast approaching that 6-month mark of, when we wanted to work with a nutritionist anyway. So it was in March of 2018. Thank goodness for email trails, right? You can search and see when things actually happened. I started communicating with this lady who is a registered dietitian and nutritional therapy practitioner who specializes in preconception health. So a nutritional therapy practitioner is kind of like a registered dietitian that is more holistic. So she was an RD as well, but she also was an NTP. So she used to have a podcast with this other NTP, and this NTP, her specialty was preconception, and I really liked her. I liked her style, and I thought I would love to work with her. And Mark was on board with that as well, and so I reached out to her via email. We went back and forth quite a few times, just like trying to set up a phone consult or like a internet consult, because of course we were in Germany at the time. But it just, for various factors, like Mark's military schedule, because I wanted both of us to be on the call, his military work schedule, his brother came into town, just the time difference with being in Germany. And also the NTP herself was pregnant and she was dealing with like really bad morning sickness. And she's like, let me get back to you in a little bit, like after this passes in a few weeks. For all these different factors, I'd never secured an appointment with her. So then in early June, she reached back out to me and was like, hey, I still would love to take you on as a client. Like I'm feeling a lot better right now. And, do you want to still work together? And it was so hard for me to do this, but I knew that I needed to say no, even though I really wanted to work with her and I was sure that she was going to give us some valuable information. I just knew this was about 7 months of trying to conceive. And I just knew that we needed something more, because, the technical definition of infertility, typically people tell you like, oh, you can't really seek any help until you've been trying for 12 months. But if you're fertility charting and when your ovulation window is, after 6 months of doing that, you are considered infertile. You meet the definition of infertility. That's not really commonly known because everyone thinks you have to be trying for a year. But if you're charting and when you're ovulating or around when you're ovulating, then 6 months, and it had been 7 for us. So I knew that something was wrong. I knew that I should have gotten pregnant already, but something needed to be addressed. And I was like, you know what? It's probably something more than just changing my diet and taking supplements, because I was already doing a bunch of things. So I told her no, and this is where part 1 ends, and part 2 will begin next when we begin our journey with restorative reproductive medicine. This is like the meat and potatoes of our infertility journey, and I can't wait to do part 2 because it gets really exciting. It's where we find out more. So stay tuned for part 2 coming up, and then of course part 3 after that. And I hope that you're able to identify with our story, and that sharing my story, sharing our story can help impact other people, because that's why I do it. You know, I do it so that others know of the resources and that they're not alone. So if this resonated with you, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and share it with your friends, maybe to educate them on what infertility is like, or to let others know that, hey, you know, I see you. Like, if you're dealing with infertility, I see you. Everyone, take care. Stay tuned for part 2. When it's up, there will be cards up here and in the description box. So in the meantime, take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.